Good Monday afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports for CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you had a great weekend. Not a great Sunday for the Cleveland Browns. They lose one to the Bengals, one that they really had to have, and their playoff hopes pretty much gone. The Browns were just 3 of 6 on fourth downs against the Bengals. Kevin Stefanski was asked about why he likes to go for it so often on fourth down.
Yeah, I think for me, Tony, it's just trying to put our guys in position to make a play, stay on the field, convert, potential 3s into 7s. It's a philosophy that I believe in. We're going to try to be aggressive, and I think our players understand that we're trying to be smart while being aggressive.
Okay, so do you consider those turnover on downs to be turnovers? That's 15 turnovers there.
Yeah, and I think you can look at it in either way, Tony. And I think it's a fair question, but you're also looking at opportunities for points in those situations.
So the Browns are 15 of 33, actually 17 of 33, 15 times they didn't make it. That's the reason for that follow-up question. Let's welcome in G. Bush. G, we can get into the specifics of this game on fourth down a little bit. At some point in time, you just got to take the 3 points and say thank you.
That's all. Give your team a shot about feeling good for themselves, right? The game starts off and you get an opportunity to be down there. You doing some good things. Deshaun Watson starts off, hits a couple of throws, and I talked to Tim Couch earlier today. He says, "Yeah, I just don't understand why, as a quarterback, why." You've been trying to get this guy acclimated. You're behind the 8 ball as far as his reps is concerned. Why would you, not either take the 3 points and just have, the team up 3-0 on the road, or if you are going to go on fourth down, you don't go on fourth down, bring your backup quarterback into a game that's not warm, and you ask him to throw a route. Yes, the guy was kind of open, but you're asking him to throw a route where he drops the ball in a bucket, and he has no rhythm. He hasn't been in the flow of the game, and that's a very difficult throw. And as a defender, if you're playing for the Bengals, you ask them, well, you bailed us out. Well, at least if you would have kept Deshaun Watson in, if the play breaks down, he could at least scramble and get the yard. Or if you gave it to Nick Chubb, he may break a tackle and get the yard. I mean, there's so many other things that they could have done other than that. And you're like, if I understand that, if you understand that, then the other team definitely knows it. And Kevin Stefanski is just, it's almost like it's a desperation thing. And you didn't need to go that way. You didn't need to do it. And I ask a question to anybody, to whose franchise quarterback comes out on 4th and 1 anyway? Mahomes not doing that. Burrow's not doing that. Herbert sure as heck not doing that. That doesn't happen. And these plays are consistently happening where it's just like, I'm confused. I just don't understand what he was thinking in that moment.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. And when you think back to the fourth downs, if you're not going to consider them turnovers, there's certainly those hidden yards that you've lost. All right, here's the play that we've been talking about. So 4th down and 1, they bring Jacoby Brissett in, first drive of the game. And as opposed to a sneak, he's going to throw into the end zone, and he overshoots him. So Kevin Stefanski was asked about that play and the thought process that goes into making this call today. And again, he was open, but to your point, he was cold. Here's what Kevin Stefanski had to say about the thought process.
Is it just you like the threat of the quarterback sneak with Jacoby? Is that kind of the basis for that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the basis of it. There's things that we can do that he's been good at in short yardage that we feel like that gives us an advantage. Obviously, frustrated in the result there and always looking at what we can do better, what I can do better. But that is obviously the idea behind it.
And Garrett, I would say this. You do that when you don't have the talent to go and push people around. If you don't have Nick Chubb, if you don't have David Njoku, if you don't have a Wyatt Teller and a Joel Bitonio, if Jacoby Brissett's in there, he should be sneaking the ball. But these are things you do when you are a talent-deficient offense, not when you are a talent-rich offense.
I don't. Why is Jacoby in the game? Kevin, that ship has sailed.
Yeah,
that's done. We're finished with that. And my question is, when you're in the offensive meetings, how did that even come about? Like, I get what you're trying to do, but you're trying to be so slick. Like, we understand Jacoby Brissett is good at sneaking the ball for 1 yard or a couple inches, but that is not what your game plan is centered around. Jacoby Brissett's sneaking ability and then game planning around that. No, that high school coaches would not do that. JV coaches don't do that. Like, it's like you're doing these things, and sometimes it's just if you're gonna bring them in to sneak, then just sneak. Not you're bailing every defense out. Ask your defensive coordinator. Would you rather them sneak the ball on 4th and inches with a 6'5" quarterback, not named Deshaun Watson, or would you rather them throw a corner route for 40 yards or 30 yards or whatever the case may be on 4th and 1? You saw the defensive back just go like this as he's running away. Incomplete. What a dumb play that was.
All right. Time for us to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason for the first of what will be many times today.
Hi, this is Rico. Every season the Browns give us excitement and hope. And then as the season goes along, it gets ripped away from us time and time again. All we have left now is sorrow and despair for our team. We fans have been waiting for so long to finally have a team that we could be proud of, and yet they never deliver for us. But yet and still, we show up to the games. We show them love on social media. And unfortunately, this team doesn't reciprocate our passion and loyalty and reward us with the winning season. It's just so heartbreaking to be a Browns fan. And obviously, I will remain a fan, but I don't know if I could keep giving my full heart and emotion to this team. In the meantime, the Cincinnati Bengals are rocking and rolling with Joe Burrow and on their way to the playoffs once again, while our team is just playing the season out. It's hard. It really is truly hard to be a Browns fan. Thanks.
Yeah, that's I can't argue. That is what every fan thinks right about now.
So sometimes I go on the radio and people could, call me pessimistic sometimes, and they say it's a knee-jerk reaction and all this other stuff. And I could get where people say, well, just be positive about certain things. But here's what my reality. The pain and despair that young man or older gentleman said was the pain that so many other different people in this Browns fandom and community feel. It's very difficult to sit up here every 3 to 5 years and question whether or not this is the GM for the job, this is the coach for the job, or this is the right offense or defense. It's very difficult. And the reason that I am the way I am is because I represent the people. I call myself the people's champ because I talk to people every single day on the ground level who wear that same type pain every single day. And he's right. The Browns were in the same position as the Bengals a couple of years ago. They drafted Joe Burrow, got Jamar Chase, went to the Super Bowl. You know how many years people have been waiting for the Browns to do that? We talk about the Buffalo Bills. They were in the same position as us. They went and drafted Josh Allen. They went and got Stephon Diggs. Guess what? They're one of the better teams in the league. We talk about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. They just continue to keep moving on. Even when they get rid of their best players, they continue to be good individual teams and a team that's going to compete for a championship. We just saw the Miami Dolphins leapfrog us. The Miami Dolphins were in the same situation, whether or not it's Tua or whoever. They went and got two great receivers in Jalen Waddle. They went and got Tyreek Hill. They rolled the dice. They went and got Bradley Chubb. They got a good young coach. Now, here's the problem. We're stuck every single year. While other teams go through cycles of good and bad, we have always consistently stayed right here. And in times of these times, we've preached, hey, let's just be a little more patient. I always ask you a question. If you think that we're bad because we got rid of coaches, I'll ask you this. Mike Pettin, Rod Chazinski, Hugh Jackson, which one of those guys went on to win a Super Bowl somewhere? I don't see them burning up the charts anywhere else. The reality is the Cleveland Browns are in a position right now where they're going to have to reevaluate. They got the last 4 games here and the first 6 of next year. And if they don't turn it around, they'll be back questioning and getting a new coach. Because guess what? That's just the way the league is.
Well, the other thing that's concerning about the Browns is they had so many penalties yesterday, and some of them strung together. Kevin Stefanski talked about those penalties.
Really, we had that string there with the roughing the punter, then hands to the face, which negated a sack, and then DPI, all that came almost consecutively. So that's frustrating, obviously. Are they physical mistakes? Yeah, they're physical, and that's part of playing football and trying to play fast. Tony understands that you can't run into the punter. That was a mistake, but it's not for lack of effort. But we have to be better there. We can't put ourselves in that position when we're about to get the ball. So those happen in football. We have to overcome them.
And G. Bush, I love this. So I'm going to put a spin on the penalties for you. And this is a tweet. I started Browns penalties in my Flex PPR Fantasy Football League. They scored 23.5 points so far.
Shout out to Sir Yacht, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. I love that. So that's how many yards they had. That's bad. That's bad. That's bad.
Well, here, I listen. Kevin Stefanski said something there. We can't put ourselves in position to do that, right? Well, I ask you a question. Why, Mr. Stefanski, are you in punt block? Why are you? I think they followed up a question with, well, why would you go after a punt right there? And he said, well, the kicker had, less than 4 starts, and we thought we could speed him up a little bit. Well, here's the problem with the Browns is all about knowing awareness, game situations, and understanding what needs to be met at that moment. At that moment, it's a 0-0 game. They're punting inside of their 25, I believe. You got them 4th and 15, and Donovan Peoples-Jones is lined up inside the Bengals territories about the 40 to 45. He just ran a kickback last week, and you're in a perfect position where you can either one or two things. You can set up the return so he has a room to work, or if he outkicks his coverage, now Donovan Peoples-Jones has an opportunity to move and run up, get a great return. Or if he just, everything happens and nothing there's nothing to write home about here, he fair catches it and you got the ball inside Bengals territory, and then 0-0 game with Deshaun Watson back on the field after you felt he moved the ball down the field the last time. What's wrong with that? Why would you? It's almost as if you're trusting Tony Fields over your playmakers. You put the ball in perspective of optimizing your playmakers making plays, not depending on, who blocks kicks anyway? Like who blocks punts in the NFL? I'm confused. Like, set the return up and just take the gimme. Take the great field position. I just don't understand it, man. I don't get it.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit about Deshaun Watson, how he played against Bengals. Sports for CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with G. Bush, host of The Barbershop on 92.3 The Fan, Saturday mornings, 8 until noon, as well as co-host of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave, Frank from Cleveland. Just one question I want to know if you can answer for me. Where's this explosive playbook Stefanski's supposed to open up when Deshaun got here? I don't see a ding different. Thank you, Dave, for taking my call.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. G. Bush, in fairness, you're probably going to have to wait a year for that playbook to open up. You can't have the playbook that you used with Jacoby and then you need all 11 guys that are going to be. And I'm the last one that wants to tell you to be patient, but I think you're not going to see that until next year.
Yeah, you're not getting out of that. First of all, you got to realize on top of that, you're looking at whether or not they got the personnel to actually do that. You don't have a deep threat on this roster. It looks like, Anthony Schwartz is going to be a person that's not going to be involved the rest of the year because he's in the protocol. They don't have a deep threat. They found a nice little, nice player in Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think he's an underneath route guy. I think he could run, consistent routes that way. But in terms of deep routes, in terms of making sure that they're going to be able to have all of the different windows and all different layers of an offense, I just don't see it. There's a couple of alarming things as well too. You see Deshaun Watson, who is in shotgun a lot. One of the alarming things is the production of Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is a back that gets downhill. You want him to make one cut and go. You want him to be able to pick his hole, be able to cut it back, do what he needs, but he needs to be going downhill. Right now, there's a lot of this side-to-side motion where they're just running them on some stretch plays, and that's getting dominated. That was getting dominating, eating up against the Texans. And DJ Reader, when you got big defensive tackles and they're penetrating in the backfield, that doesn't work. So my thing is, there's going to have to be some meshing of the two minds. How are you going to run the football more effectively? Because I have not seen the Browns run the ball effectively out of shotgun. They don't run the draw very well. The screen game has been nullified. So how are you going to marry your best two players in Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb if you're not doing it under center or you're not doing it out of the shotgun? And then basically that's a tendency thing now. If they're in shotgun, I'm like, I ain't worried about Nick Chubb. If they're under center, you're not really worried about Deshaun Watson. So those are two of the things that take time. It takes a little more personnel. They're going to have to figure that out. You're right. You may see flashes here or there, but I don't think you'll see the full extent of what he's going to do until next year.
Kevin Stefanski also talked about the improvements that he saw from Deshaun Watson in Game 2 yesterday.
I thought he definitely made strides. I think that's part of, like we've talked about, being away and then having that first game, getting that one out of the way. And then the second one, I did think you saw some improvements in decisions and improvements in technique, footwork, all those type of things. Just making sure that all those game reps he keeps adding on to what he's doing. You're going to miss throws. You're going to miss a couple reads. That's every quarterback. That's going to happen too. But I think, getting more comfortable and then just playing on time. I think that's so much of this game is playing on time, listening to your feet. And he did that a few times, and it was very, very well done yesterday.
All right, G. Bush, this is another interesting one. CBS Sports, overreaction or reality? Deshaun Watson doesn't make the Browns any better. The verdict, reality. In 2 games Watson has played, he's completed 59.4% of his passes, 407 yards with a touchdown, 2 interceptions. You see the rating. Browns have scored just 1 touchdown on 23 possessions since he's returned to the lineup. All those are very true. And if you're talking in the short term, I would say this. Deshaun Watson will make the offense, the threat of the offense, more explosive. We may not see what we need to see in terms of production. It just doesn't look like it's going to happen.
This is the tough thing here. I've said it before. There's sometimes when you take a look at a roster, you take a look at a team, and one of the things that you take a look at is, all right, is this team going to be great or improved when you get one player? And I think so many times we put on display that we feel like a franchise quarterback fixes everything. We feel like if you got a franchise quarterback, your receivers are automatically better, that you'll block better, that the defense will somehow be more miraculous and be great. But one of the things that we're seeing right here in real time, even if they do, just be clear. Deshaun Watson threw for 4,800 yards, and the Texans went 4-12. I think everybody needs to realize that every single person in the organization has to do their job in order for you to win. That means the general manager can't miss on picks, especially high. That means your head coach has to make tough decisions. He has to say, if my defensive coordinator is not getting it done, I need to get somebody in here that'll do it. I need people to understand that you can't punt on seasons. You can't just convince yourself that, since I drafted a guy, he's going to be good. There's a lot of things that this team that can work on things. We just named a few of them. The penalties are out of control. Situational football is still not there. You still look at an opportunity where you say your best players aren't being put in a position to make plays. There's a lot of different things that we can say are left to be desired. And you can't just count on Myles Garrett just getting home every play, or you can't depend on Deshaun Watson throwing for 5,000 yards. Right now, if I look at this team, I look at them in a mirror, just look at the rosters. Just look at the rosters. I mean, the Bengals beat you without their number one tight end, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. None of them played, and they still beat you handily, right? They beat you with one guy, and that was Jamar Chase. And Joe Burrow didn't even have a great game. So where is the bar at for the Cleveland Browns if you can't even do that? You guys are running into punters and bringing backups in. That's not going to work in a division where you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and all these really good teams. What we are seeing on the field, in the front office and coaching and playing is nowhere near the level that they need to be in order to get to where they want to go, and that's to win the Super Bowl. If you guys want to be competitive, okay, you'll make the playoffs every 4 years. But to consistently do that, they got to get their whole organization to a point where they can even mirror what's going on. And it's just not there right now. It just isn't.
All right, before we go to break, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
We put too much pressure on Deshaun Watson, and I think Kevin felt it, Deshaun felt it, Alex felt it. I think a lot of the people that's in the organization felt that he had to do certain things. He had to run for a touchdown, or he had to throw for a touchdown to be even considered the best again. And in my opinion, I think that they have been overthinking how to get him going, and I think it's really backfired.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. G. Bush, I will say this. They don't seem to take the simplest thing that's right in front of them very often. And sometimes in football, the easy thing is what works best.
Yep. In football, it's all about execution. It's a thing to be said for, what we're doing, but can you stop it? There's certain plays that, when you go back and watch it, you get the ball to Jordan in the post, and later in his career, he was going to the fadeaway, can't do nothing about it. Kareem was going to the hook. No one couldn't know. Reggie White, where he had a forklift move. You knew it was coming. It was in his back pocket. Couldn't do nothing about it, right? But when you got special players need the availability and the ability and the clearance space to be special. One of the things I was so frustrated about in terms of the Odell Beckham Jr. thing, and people will say, well, stop bringing it up. Well, here in organizations, we don't say stop bringing stuff up. We figure out what went wrong there so it doesn't happen again. Here in Cleveland, we do too much of it. Don't bring it up. If you put all your clothes under your bed and don't clean it out, everything will look clean and we'll be okay. No, let's break down certain situations so they don't continue to happen. When you looked at the Odell Beckham Jr. situation, you had a receiver who was a special talent, who you could not get the ball. And instead of you saying as a coordinator, I need to do everything in my power to make sure I can facilitate this guy because he's special and therefore bringing my team to a new level, you put him in a system where it was homogenous and everybody got equal treatment. That's not how it worked. When you go watch the other teams, and guess what? They got rid of him. And it wasn't about that. Baker Mayfield, they had Baker. Baker was hurt. Did they change their playbook to whatever Baker was able to throw or could do? No. They kept running the same thing, and Baker was hurt, and it didn't turn out well. We look at Nick Chubb, first 6 weeks of the season, first 10 weeks of the season, first 11 weeks of the season. We knew we had a backup quarterback. You should have been handing the ball to Nick Chubb 25 times a game, if be, and giving Kareem Hunt 15 to 7. Did you get it to him? No, that never worked out. And now you have Deshaun Watson, and now you want to tell me that somehow, by osmosis, you're going to learn how to get special people room to operate and to be creative. I haven't seen that from this staff. I just haven't. I see they work better when everything is equal and everything's 50-50. But in the league, you know how people lose and win? With special players. And I see other people's special players like Jamar Chase, 15 targets. Who cares if I'm the only receiver? You can't stop me. And they get it to him. I haven't seen that yet from the Browns.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We'll look at Pro Football Focus's top-graded players, and a couple of things stand out. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with G. Bush, host of The Barber Shop on 92.3 The Fan, Saturdays from 8 till noon, as well as co-host of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 11 to 1 on YouTube. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Calling about Jedrick Wills. I would like to see Jedrick move back to his regular position. It seems that somehow his mechanics is not as good as he was in college. And my second comment, I noticed that the Green Bay Packers own their own team, the city, under Haslam. We haven't had a real winning season other than when Baker came back for that first few games. Well, his first year.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. G. Bush, Green Bay is grandfathered in, so they can own that because they're allowed to do that. Jedrick Wills to right tackle, that might be something they look at. He's been okay, but he hasn't been 10th pick in the first round okay.
Just talked to John Costco, Pro Football Focus, and his run blocking grades are in the 50s. It's one of those things where I look at it, and it's another thing with Jedrick Wills. Him and Conklin haven't played very well this year. Last year, Wills had the ankle injury, and I think that slowed him a little bit. Conklin has been in and out injured a lot as well. So when you're looking at this situation, you got to think about it like this. He was a top 10 pick. I've always said this to me. I always thought that he was more of a guard. I didn't see left tackle body type. Most times left tackles are leaner. They're a little taller. They're over 6'6". They have longer arms so they can punch and stab and keep those pass rushers. And obviously they want to be a little bit taller so they can run the defensive ends around the hoop. And obviously that means your quarterback can step up and throw the football. For me, I just never thought he had the footwork per se to be a dominant left tackle. I think he could be a good left tackle if he pans out at the highest level. But I didn't see it. Now, the thing the Browns are going to have to make a decision on is he got a fifth year coming up. So, and this happens a lot, and this is coming up for a lot of people. Conklin, you're going to have to make a decision on. He's making a lot of money. You talk about you have a lot of money wrapped up in your two guards. And Teller has been hurt this year. He hasn't been what he used to be, but he has a calf injury. But Tonio is now over 30 years old. Now you're looking at a unit in their prime, which goes from the weakest link was Jedrick Wills. And you can live with that because he was still giving you mid-70s production and he's a young player. But can you live with that if you moving in Hubbard, who needs to show himself to be a right tackle? Are you going to be able to do it if you have to make a decision between Bitonio and Teller? And what are you doing at Ethan Pochich was a great pick. You got Harris. Can you move Harris to one of the guards if you need to cut some salary somewhere? The reality of it is, up front, you're going to have to be starting to make some moves very quickly, defensively as well as offensive line. Jadeveon Clowney won't be on this team next year. You're going to have to figure out what you're going to do at defensive tackle because you need more depth there, and you're going to have to make a decision on the fifth year and whether or not you're keeping Conklin. And that's one of the things about when people say, oh, well, we'll just do it next year. Well, the thing about punting on years is while you're punting on years and while you keep kicking the can down the road, people are getting older, a little longer in the tooth, not as athletic. The cap number is going up. So now you can't just say we don't need anything with the offensive line. We can go look for a skill position for Deshaun Watson. It's not necessarily the case. That's the problem of trying to build a roster in the NFL. Your window is very finite, and if you miss it, you can add a quarterback, but hey, what you gonna put around him?
All right, these are the top grades, the top defensive grades against the Bengals per Pro Football Focus. So you got Garrett and Clowney. They showed up, 92.3 and 90. Then you got Deion Jones, Taven Bryant, Perrion Winfrey, three of the guys who, heck, Deion Jones they traded for. He was on somebody's practice squad. Bryant and Winfrey have struggled. What you don't see is anybody from the defensive secondary, and that is not good when you're facing the Cincinnati Bengals.
And mind you, it wasn't like they got a tough assignment. All they had, it was Jamar Chase. That was it. It was Jamar Chase and, I don't know, a couple guys that, had long blonde hair. I thought it was Thor out there. I was like, Thor is killing you guys today. Thor of Ragnarok is really unguardable. I was looking for his hammer. I was looking for his axe and everything. I'm like, man, these dudes is great. I mean, that's the elephant in the room. It ain't even no elephant in the room no more, man. That $100 million to Denzel Ward, ooh, that's not a movable deal. That's just not. Greg Newsome, I didn't know he was playing. I didn't know if he was there that day. Couple of penalties on the young guy, but I'm just sitting here thinking around and I'm looking around. I'm like, oh my goodness, and the flea flicker. I've never seen a safety. I mean, Grant Delpit bit so tough that he knew it in his soul. He couldn't even. It was one of them things. He didn't even turn around and look. It was just like. He just stopped dead in his tracks and was like, man, I'm going to go ahead and get ready for a field goal block. I'm going to just get ready because that's how bad it was. That dude walked into the end zone and John Johnson still can't tackle. So he's just, I don't know. I don't know what to say except for you need to do something with the secondary too. See, that's a great thing about football. Sometimes you think you got somebody and then you be like, wow, I got to fill those spots too. I got to feel that too. It's like a honey go do list. I thought I just cleaned the gutters. I could have swore I got this dishwasher together. Or was that last week? Nope. You got to rotate the tires too. And we got to go grocery shop. Oh my gosh. I just want to hang out.
That's
how it is sometimes.
Andrew Berry's list keeps getting a little bit longer for the offseason.
A little bit longer.
Yep. and the checkbook is a little bit empty too.
On a budget.
G. Bush and I are going to take one more time out. Other side of the break, we will head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports for CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with G. Bush, host of The Barbershop on 92.3 The Fan from 8 until noon on Saturdays. Also, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show 11 to 1 on YouTube. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yeah, this is Ace calling in, longtime Browns fan. After watching the game today and watching Kevin Stefanski as a game manager, number one, and then number two, critical decision-making. As a head coach in the National Football League, he failed the Cleveland Browns. And I think that since he wants to do what's best for the Cleveland Browns, and this is what he said at his introductory press conference, he should give up play calling, and he should manage the game and manage the clock. It took us 5 minutes in the fourth quarter to get down to the end zone to even get a chance to throw the ball at BPJ, and unfortunately, he dropped that pass. But Kevin Stefanski needs to give up play calling and needs to be a head coach in the National Football League. I don't know what his deal is, but he has got to do better with this roster and $230 million under center. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. G. Bush, none of those type of moves will come until the offseason, but that might be something that's starting to get on the table. Is them, you can either be the head coach or you can call plays. Don't know if you can do both.
You see, I was doing this a little bit earlier during the year, and I was talking about a case where, certain coaches don't do a good enough job, and I think humans in general don't do enough job of watching other people's mistakes and then kind of trying to navigate those waters and try not to make the same mistakes other people did, paying attention to that. One of the things that I thought was really tough for Hugh Jackson was Hugh Jackson just couldn't get over the play calling. He just couldn't get over the fact that, that's what he felt he did the best at one of his stops. And I was with the Raiders and with the Bengals, and I thought we had pretty good offenses, and and he lost fact of, you don't get paid to just be good on offense. Your job is tasked with the Cleveland Browns getting to the ultimate goal, which is going to the Super Bowl and becoming a perennial power in this league. And so if it takes the fact that you have to turn over something that you like, something that you really feel like you feel like an affinity towards, in order to progress the larger goal, then a leader has enough mental wherewithal and have enough, honor and respect and wisdom to say, what do you want to be? Do you want to be known as the coordinator that, that was the coach of a team but could never really get over the hump because you couldn't give up the play calling? Or do you want to be known as a guy who is a solution maker? He has solutions for things. You're a problem fixer. You're all of those different things. Is that something you're going to be able to do? Because here's the reality of the situation. No one's going to know if you get fired, if you call good plays or not. You might be able to be a great coordinator somewhere else, but you said you wanted to be a head coach, didn't you? Make sure the defense is right. Make sure that there's no penalties. Be a guy that can be in a defensive huddle, moving around. Be a person that can lend a hand over on the other side of the defensive coordinator room, where you can be hands-on with everything. I remember one time, a really quick story, when I was in corporate America, I used to manage 50 people. And I used to be great with the hands-on stuff, right? I used to be awesome with it, motivating people. That's my best job. But my manager said, hey, Gary brought me in. He said, well, look, I sent you an email 2 weeks ago, and I never got a reply from it. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, I'll get to it. And he said, plus, it looks like a couple of these timesheets got turned in a little late past the deadline. And he said, you're great at the things you're great at, but those aren't the things that'll keep you in the job. The things that'll keep you in the job are the things that you improve on that you're not good at. And that dawned on me and it hit me. Being a leader and being responsible for a lot of things, that's the part. That's it. You're responsible not for what you like to do, but with everything a part of the job is. So Kevin Stefanski, if he asks, what is your job? He's in charge of the defense, special teams, offense, penalties, rotations, all of that. So I think if he can take a step back, and he's smart enough to figure this out, if you hire out Van Pelt and he's been in these positions with you before, let him roll. He done been in here. He knows how you think. If you trust in what he is as a coordinator, let him do his job, and you evolve to be able to be a bigger CEO. That's just my 2 cents. He may do it, he may not. But like you said, for most, it will be on the table.
G. Bush, as always, great stuff, man. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Appreciate you.
All right, G. Bush, make sure you check him out. 92.3 The Fans, The Barbershop, 8 until noon on Saturdays. Also, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Monday through Friday, 11 to 1 each and every day. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers. Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. Straight ahead, Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers' third best record in the Eastern Conference. Split the last 2 games, lost when they probably shouldn't have, beat the Sacramento Kings. J.B. Bickerstaff on giving up leads late in games.
It's frustrating at times for all of us, but there's opportunities to mature in moments like this. But again, we have to be better. Like, we can't continue to do the same things to ourselves, and mostly through self-inflicted wounds. So we have to be better. But, it says a lot that, we didn't allow last night to hang over. And, again, we had a bunch of guys step up who were determined to help us win.
And with that, let's welcome again Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. So the Cavs had lost the one to the Kings, were able to hang on and beat the Thunder. Now they head out for a West Coast trip. But Sam, that again, that's part of the message is, guys, we get a lead, we got to start putting the foot on people.
Yeah, and I mean, a big part of the issue, Dave, when it comes to holding on to those leads and putting the pedal to the metal is taking care of the basketball. And the Cavs have, for all their positives, that's really a negative that's been weighing on them all season, is just a lot of turnovers, not getting good looks at the basket with the shot clock winding down, too much dribbling sometimes. It's not a big problem, but it's enough to lose home games to Sacramento Kings. To build a lead on a team like the Thunder at home and take your foot off the pedal. Really, anytime you miss an opportunity to get a good look or a good shot at the basket, you're creating an opportunity for the opponents. So that's something that, JB wants to see them clean up. And, it starts with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell when he's healthy, and the big guys. It's just, and LeVert, Karis LeVert, and Shetty. All those guys just have to do a better job of taking care of the basketball and not giving, when you do turn it over, which is going to happen sometimes, getting back on defense and making sure you're not offering the opponent an easy opportunity.
Yeah, you know what? There's a guy coming back, Ricky Rubio, who I think will probably help that out quite a bit. We saw that last year when he played, so we'll kind of keep an eye on that. So the Cavs are in Texas for a couple of games. They play the Spurs tonight, play the Maverick Wednesday. And you take a look at this. Cavs 5-1 against the Spurs since 2019-2020, including 3-0 mark on the road at AT&T Center. Spurs are just 8-18. What do you think J.B. Bickerstaff wants to see from these 2 games, Spurs and Mavericks?
They want to get a win against the Spurs. Like you said, they're struggling this season. They're almost kind of playing for the lottery, without saying we're playing for the number 1 pick. They are. So those are the type of teams you want to get on the road. And then, you know what? You win this game on the road in San Antonio. or Dallas, you don't feel as badly about losing to the Kings at home. And that's not a shot at the Kings. They're obviously vastly improved. But, now you got to go out on the road and make up for that home loss. So, more than anything, again, it's taking care of the basketball, getting back on defense, and getting back to, the principles that helped you, you're 17-10, helped you get to this point right now, despite, it seems like a constant barrage of minor injuries that are keeping a guy out here and there. Just try to get some fluidity and win one of these games, because, you don't want to start getting into the point where you're going out on the road and losing to bad teams. And right now the Spurs are a bad team.
Yeah, and you got the Nets and the Sixers, and we know the guys they have on those teams, they're starting to play better, and they're kind of creeping up in the Eastern Conference, so that's something to keep an eye on. Darius Garland, he's doing really well. Last four, 31.3. You see the field goal percentage, almost 58%. Three-point percentage, 56%. Over 7 assists in his last four against the Spurs. So it's a guy that, for whatever reason, be it matchup or what, plays well against the Spurs.
He had a huge game against the Spurs a couple years ago, and that was the kind of got the ball rolling on, boy, this guy could really be good. And it all happened in San Antonio. So, you probably think that that's probably a little bit of a special place to him. But, the key is for him, obviously, has been really good all season. Again, it's just taking care of the basketball. And he knows that, he's aware of it. I got to do a little bit better job. Don't always have to make the Instagram-worthy pass. Can just make the simple play that will lead to a basket. So, as a guy who handles the ball more than anybody else on the team, brings the ball up the floor, gets them into their offense, he faces a lot of pressure. And he tends to make more turnovers, understandably so, when Donovan Mitchell's hurt, not out there, because then all of a sudden teams are kind of ganging up on Garland. So, he should have could be in line for a big game against San Antonio. Other than Mitchell, he's the best guard on the floor, so it would only make sense. And clearly he has really enjoyed playing there, as the stats will show you.
And both Mitchell and Love expected to play tonight. They participated in shoot-around. They're trending towards playing. It seems like a silly question, but you have those two guys, and those are two of probably your 5 or 6 best players. So obviously that improves your chances of winning and improves the quality of basketball.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is it's not just the fact that they're two of your best players, but it's guys who fit so well along everybody else. And we've seen Donovan Mitchell. We saw him against the Lakers in Cleveland last week when, things were kind of slogging along for the Cavs, and then Mitchell just takes it over. And that just gives you that element to it. So, if you're even without the Donovan Mitchell, this is the game you should go in expecting to win, and playing well, because you haven't played great against these lesser opponents at home. When you're talking about Sacramento Kings and Thunder, you played well enough against Thunder to win. You played well enough against the Kings that they just got really hot. But, now it's a situation where if we have Mitchell and Kevin Love, well, that adds to our depth. Karis LeVert seems to be picking it up a little bit. Really no excuse for you to lose if you have those two guys.
Sam Amico from HoopsWire.com and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll hear more from JB Biggerstaff. Also take a look at the NBA's best rim protectors. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Cavs with Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. JB Bickerstaff talking about Lamar Stevens.
He's a huge part of what we've done and what we've started to build here, just from a personality standpoint and a spirituality. You know, he's got, you know, that mentality. And even when he wasn't playing, you know, he kind of impressed it on others to go out and play with that scrappy mentality, that underdog mentality. You know, so when he's on the floor, that's who he is. And the guys feel that, you know, and it lifts them up. And, you know, he's hungry out there, and you can feel it. And he impacts the emotions of everybody.
Sam, I said it before. When I see Lamar Stevens play, I want to see more of him. So I understand there may be guys who do certain things better than him. I think he's a guy that just this team seems to respond to when he's on the court.
He's a player that Cavs fans don't talk about nearly enough because he is, as JB just said, a vital part of, you know, kind of their culture and mentality and approach. He does nothing really great, but he does everything well enough. And he plays with a ton of fire, a ton of passion. And look, he makes some big plays from time to time, even offensively, where they need a basket or something. And, you know, the other team's really defending well and defending the big four of Garland and Mitchell and Allen and Mobley, defending all them really well. And Lamar will sneak in there and get you a bucket. So he's really been kind of the unsung hero to this resurgence in Cleveland, and it's because of pure effort, pure desire, always having a real positive attitude. You know, he's a guy who's not going to be screaming proclamations of how to play better at his teammates, you know, in practice, but he will go out and lead by example. And, you know, still a young guy and just really could be an unsung part of what they're doing here for the long haul when they're expecting to compete again for championships.
Yeah, I think all championship teams have a guy like that. He doesn't have the most talent, but for whatever reason, you put him on the court and he finds a way to contribute and do something positive that leads to a win. NBA's best rim protectors this season from the Bleacher Report. Number 1, Brook Lopez. 2, Sabonis. 3, Zubek. Number 10, Jared Allen of the Cavaliers. Points saved at the rim, 27.55. Opponents are converting 49.4% of their looks at the basket with Allen on them. The stingiest mark in the league among the 52 players to contest as many close range shots. Sam, what that tells me is that this is a guy you don't want at the basket when you're trying to score.
Right. Yeah, he's been a big difference. And I think that, you know, number 10 to me seems low because if you watch the Cavs without him, it's a little bit different of a ball game, especially at the rim. Evan Mobley does a nice job, but Allen is another level when it comes to protecting the basket. It's obviously not just blocking shots, but as the stat showed you, altering shots, making shots more difficult for players who might not get it blocked, but they're certainly thinking twice about going in there. And he really, you know, you talk about not just blocking and altering shots, but getting the break started, getting rebounds, finishing at the other end. He's just really a guy who, you know, we talk about Mitchell and Garland all the time, as we should, because, you know, they're the two best players, two biggest threats offensively. But Allen is for an all-star, a guy who was an all-star last year, is pretty unsung around the league. But I'll tell you what, opposing teams really appreciate him and respect him, especially when they're driving to the basket, because he's not only has the length and the athleticism, but he has the smarts to know when to jump, not get into foul trouble, and he's not considered up there with the Joel Embiids and Karl Anthony Towns of the world, but defensively he probably should be, because he makes that big of a difference.
Yeah, and you know what? He runs well, and he's quick off his feet. My guess is that 10 numbers because he missed some games because of injury. And the Cavs' defense was not the same. That's obviously a statement, but there's a noticeable difference in the defense when he is out there.
Yeah, and it all comes down to the fact that if a guy gets past one of your guards and he's not out there, well, life at the rim is going to be a lot easier. If he is, that changes the course of everything that everybody else is trying to do. And you throw in Evan Mobley with that, you've got 2 7-footers there at the basket, both really good shot blockers, So when you're an opposing guard, that just goes into your head. When you're driving to the basket, you kick it back out for a worse shot. It really does start when he's not in there. When Allen's not there, of course, that becomes considerably easier. You just have to worry about Mobley. You try to pull him away from the basket if you're an opponent, and it just changes the course of everything the Cavs are trying to do. And Allen is a guy who plays playoff style basketball all season long with that defense. So that's something that should benefit them when it means the most as well.
Sam Amico, hoopswire.com as always, man. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
All right. Thanks a lot for having me, Dave. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sam Amico, hoopswire.com. All things Cavs as well as the entire NBA. Make sure you check it out. Before we go, the Guardians made it official. First baseman designated hitter Josh Bell signed to a 2-year contract worth $33 million. There is an opt-out after the first year. Josh Bell talked about signing with the Guardians, and Chris Antonetti also about how he fits into this lineup.
Really excited for this opportunity. I was able to watch from afar. Seeing everything that the Guardians did last year was really entertaining baseball. Surprised a lot of people from what expectations were at the beginning of the season last year, and to finish where they finished, it's pretty incredible. So I'm happy to, hopefully be a part of that, that culture next year of pushing us even further. Earlier this off season, the Guardians reached out, and my wife being from Ohio, she was grinning from year to year. They're probably the scrappiest team in the league in regards to offense. The lowest strikeout rate in the league. I think they were up there with the most comeback wins. And for me personally, you look at the top 3 in the order, you got 3 guys that, have stolen 20 bases, and that's before the bases get bigger and before, the pitchers have, 3 strikes and you're out in regards to pickoff moves. So, the numbers will go up there as well. So, for me as a middle of the order guy, I'd look at slate myself in a lineup where, I'm going to have runners in scoring position quite often. It's definitely an exciting time for me offensively. And, both sides of the ball, it seems like, they take care of the baseball really well. The pitching is spectacular.
In many respects, Josh checked all the boxes. He's a switch-hitting, middle-of-the-order bat that controls the strike zone extraordinarily well. He's hit for prodigious power in the past. He does a good job. He doesn't swing and miss a ton. But for all of the things Josh does on the field and why we think he's a good fit there, he's also earned a reputation as a phenomenal teammate and someone who's a unifying presence in the clubhouse. And that's something that, as you know, is exceedingly important to us. And lastly, Josh is committed to making an impact in the community. If you look at his track record and the places he's been, he's not only made an impact on the organization, but the communities in which he's played. He's a 2-time nominee for the Roberto Clemente Award. He's had various programs and initiatives in his stops in Pittsburgh and Washington, and we're really looking forward to supporting Josh in those efforts as well. So for so many reasons, we are excited to welcome Josh to the organization because we really do think he's a a great fit here and will help us on our path to becoming a World Series champion.
Chris Antonetti talking about Josh Bell. Bell had 17 homers last year, 27 the year before, and in 2019 he had 37. First baseman DH fits nicely into the middle of that Guardians lineup going forward. We'll hear more from Josh Bell coming up a little bit later in the week. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you right back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.